Welcome back, fellow Gothamites. We're talking about our top three most shocking moments about Gotham Season 5, Episode 2, Trespassers. We started this with Episode 1 of Season 5, this idea of the top three most shocking moments. I think we're going to be able to keep this up for the entire season, right?
Definitely. We have another three fantastic, top three surprising moments, shocking moments of this episode of Gotham, which is Episode 2, Season 5, Trespassers.
Yes.
And remember, our full thoughts on this episode can be listened to over on our podcast. Just head on over to gothamtvpodcast.com and you can subscribe to the podcast there, or you can listen to it directly through the website. That's for our full Season 5 spoiler-filled review of Episode 2.
Yep, and includes a discussion with David Mazouz this week about his thoughts about this episode of Gotham. We also have an upcoming interview with Andrew Sellon, who plays Mr. Penn, the sidekick to Oswald Cobblepot. A really, really good in-depth chat with him. That'll be coming up next week with Episode 3 of our podcast. But we're here to talk about the top three most shocking moments from this episode. John, what's number one?
The first one is creepy mother and child. Yes, this brought horror and creepiness into Gotham, and certainly we love that here as well.
Yeah.
I mean, they do it so well, and here we have kind of abandoned looking, dusty, half-lit house where there is Jim, Harvey, and a group of kids that they've just saved have run for safety. And of course, instead of safety, they have people being bomb-fired in the oven down in the kitchen. They have people having their teeth extracted for the gold fillings, their fingers chopped off to take their rings.
Yep.
You name it, this mother and this child, or an orphan that she's picked up who is equally as sadistic and psychotic as her, are really after your most treasured possessions. And this is really, really good. It's got a fantastic Bullock moment, who, like myself, massively freaked out by this masked mother and her creepy orphan. And instead of being the man, he really just kind of screams and pushes her out of the way so that he can get out of that house as quickly as possible.
Hilarious.
So a fantastic Harvey Bullock moment, certainly for this episode.
Absolutely, and Jim Gordon even gets a punch into her face before he leaving as well. So both of them get an instant reaction, which is kick her and run.
I mean, the thing is, what's outside of the house isn't particularly welcoming for Jim, Harvey, and the kids anyway. So, this is a nice little moment for mother and child. So that is our first surprising moment, and certainly because we also thought that the mother and child would be maybe a couple of episodes, maybe 3 or 4 episodes, as a bad guy or a antagonist within this season. But it might actually just be that this is the only moment that we see this pairing on Gotham for this season, this final season.
I think with the shorter series order, just with the 12 episodes, they haven't been able to do everything they wanted to do with this season, but we are definitely getting glimpses and definitely getting some great moments in this episode. Let's move on to our second shocking moment for this episode. This is more shocking to everybody, I suppose, than I thought it was going to be. We did get, luckily, able to see these episodes in advance of them airing, and this kind of passed me by that it would be a huge surprise to everybody that the witch was Poison Ivy. We heard back at New York Comic Con last year when John Stevens and the cast were there for their final appearance at New York Comic Con, him telling everybody that Poison Ivy had a huge role to play and had a huge central portion of New York carved out for herself, which is this huge garden centre, effectively, in the centre of the city.
Yeah, it's our second surprising moment, which is Poison Ivy returns, and she is the witch that the crazy made-up nurse has been telling Bruce Wayne about in order to help save Selena Kyle's mushed spine. So this is, again, another surprising moment for this episode. And in fact, from point one with Mother and Child, we move from House of Horror to effectively Wicker Man moment, or the Witch Trials of Salem, because she is a witch. So we have magic acorns, we have irate villagers, we have pitchforks, we have baying crowds coming to burn the witch, we have salting of the earth. So all these lovely pagan rituals and myths. I'm surprised there wasn't a ducking stool in the Botanical Gardens pond, to be honest. But this is a really good moment. It really does amp up that irate villager moment to try and stop the magic or the witchcraft of Poison Ivy. But ultimately, as well, the great thing that drives this is that Bruce Wayne has to go to Poison Ivy despite all the suspicion and distrust that he has for her, given that she did try and kill him in the last season, in order to save Selina, because she has something, and in this case it's magic acorns, not magic mushrooms, so she's not going to be on a hallucinogenic high in any way, so that she doesn't feel the pain of her mushed spine. This is magic acorns that will somehow bind to Selina's spine. So a really nice moment here, because ultimately the distrust that Bruce has, he's got to get over it, because the person who he cares for more, he has to try and get the magic potion or the magic acorn to save her.
Absolutely. And remember, these magic acorns, as you're calling them, were created by Poison Ivy feeding the bodies of these young men to the earth in the Botanical Gardens, creating new plants, creating new potions, effectively. So created out of darkness, feeding our cat, hopefully, to bring her back to life. So very, very interesting. I also think a hugely shocking moment is when Bruce gets her out of her stay in the prison that these guys have created for her, and she just kills them all. She slaughters every single one of them the minute she gets out. This is a crazy, evil Poison Ivy that we're seeing here. She was crazy and evil when she took on these powers and tried to kill our Bruce last season, but she's keeping that. You'll hear David Mazouz talk about his relationship with Peyton List and talk about her version of the character if you listen to our full podcast over at GothamTVPodcast.com. But just to reference the fact that he does mention that she is a very young character in this body, trying to make her way and protect her plants, which is what she thinks she should be doing. So very interesting stuff.
Yeah, I think the other great thing about this is some really good special effects. So when she's killed a few of the villagers, the others have then kept her bound and captive with the salting of the earth and all this. But when she's released, again, she kills the villagers that are there. I say villagers, they're not, they're Gothamites, but they do look like they are villagers.
I just need to go off and get my fire to burn her.
Yeah, their flat cap, their pitchfork, they're kind of, it's real kind of country folk. I'm expecting a Shire horse to turn up with a cart with pumpkins on or something like that, which would be useful for Scarecrow. But certainly some great special effects with the ivy just continually sort of binding these dead bodies and twisting around them. Even slightly off camera or so you just have it going on in the background. So really nice special effects here. But I think onto our third surprising moment. And this is a result of those magic acorns, and this is the kitty eyes of Selina Kyle. Yes, we get physical transformation of Selina Kyle to Catwoman. And I think one of the great things here is that this is following the application of the magic acorns. They have worked their stuff. She's had a few convulsions. It looks like it's touch and go, but she ends up standing, Bruce giving her a hug, welcoming her back to sort of the real world. Last week we saw that she was suicidal, and as she is embracing him and they are hugging, then you get this change in her eyes as it goes from human eyes to cat eyes. So really nicely done here. And I think as well, one of the great things is, whether it's the makeup, whether it is Cameron Beacon Dover's whole acting here of Selina Kyle, you get that sense that there is something off with her before you see the kitty eyes, and it's really nicely done actually. But it is for Selina Kyle fans, for Cameron Beacon Dover fans, we have Catwoman here. And really nicely done, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely the shocking moment there with the eyes coming back out, but also the shocking moment where she says she's going to take this potion that's been given to her by Poison Ivy because yesterday she was suicidal. So what can happen? What bad can really happen here? It just feels like a different type of character that we're getting this season from Selina Kyle. So very excited to see episode 3 and lots more shocking moments, I'm sure. As we mentioned, we have got a full podcast out there for you. with all of our details and all of our discussions about all the big moments in this episode as well, go over to our website over at gothamtvpodcast.com, pick up the podcast there, or go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and you'll pick up our podcast there. We'd love to hear your thoughts about all the episodes as well. Let us know by emailing us at feedback@gothamtvpodcast.com or commenting just below right here. Thanks so much for joining us this week. We'll be back with even more shocking moments next episode, I promise.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for tuning in, fellow Gothamites and detectives, and we'll speak with you again next week. Bye.